and took part in writing this current constitution. A constitution is a living document. It provides for mechanisms for its own amendment. So the most important thing is to check as to whether any proposed amendments are in line with the provisions of that constitution. I've listened to the debate which is going on publicly, and my position is very clear. The proposed amendment to this constitution is in line with the constitution itself. The constitution provides that whenever the people of Zimbabwe, through their parliament, deem it fit to amend the constitution, they can do so. There are only 3 provisions in this constitution which require a referendum for an amendment. The Bill of Rights is one of those provisions. The land provisions cannot be amended without a referendum. Any other provision of this constitution can be amended through a 2/3 majority of parliament. And we were very clear when we wrote this constitution to say which areas do we want protected from amendment by parliament. So when a law specifies areas which are preserved for amendment, it means that any other parts of the constitution which have not been protected can be amended by parliament using 2/3 majority. And from my reading, the proposed amendments do not require a referendum. And I must emphasize, these proposed amendments do not require a referendum. The Constitution is very clear. I thought I should just make that very clear from the outset.
Okay. I think you have heard it for yourself. Was there a clamor from the usual detractors of Zanu PF who wants to say that we are abrogating certain sections of the Constitution? It's not true. And there are some even who are trying to take an issue with the extension of the presidential term limit. There are several countries in the world.
Let me also make it clear that the amendments simply, the law says if a term limit is a period of more than 3 years, and the proposed amendment extends or increases by another 2 years, it does not fall foul of the provisions of this Constitution. If you want to amend for 3 years, that's when you require a referendum. If it's an amendment by a period of 2 years, you are not putting in a new term, so to say. This is why we specifically made that provision in this Constitution. So in other words, if you are extending by a period which is less than 3 years, you have not increased by another term. The Constitution says so in very clear terms. I thought I should clear that.
I think, well, he has taken the words out of my mouth. I just want to say on the global stage, the issue of term limits for president varies country by country. Some are 5 years, but others like Italy, 7 years, because they feel that the president needs to be given enough time to carry out the mandate which he may have got from the electorate, so that he can have sufficient time to execute all the policies and deliver on the programs of the president. I've just mentioned Italy, for example. I think, also there are other countries without term limits. Angela Merkel in Germany, she ruled ad infinitum for ages because the Germans liked her. So let's not make it like there is sacrosanct canons about certain term limits which are coming from somewhere from the gods. No. Constitutions, as he has indicated, they are live documents. They are subject to the wishes of the people at a certain stage of the development of their country. People cannot be manacled to a constitution. It's not the purpose of a constitution to manacle the electorate or the people of a certain country. If they feel that certain amendments can be made, so be it. And that's what exactly ZANU-PF is doing. I emphasize once again, there's complete gratification about the work of President President Mnangagwa and his Second Republic. He has hardly been in power for 6 years, hardly. But this country has changed completely changed in those 6 years. He's a man who has put his shoulders to the wheel and is making sure that Zimbabwe progresses. So there's general satisfaction about the worksheet of the president. There is. And the people of Zimbabwe are saying, the man is doing a good job. Let's have more of him. Let him be given a chance. He's alert. You saw him in Dubai answering questions at a global stage. Yeah, the answers just came like that, contrary to those who were trying to purvey the false narrative of creeping senility or other healthy issues. This is not the truth about the president. He's alert. He answers. He chairs his cabinet. It's a long cabinet from 9 usually to 4:30. And I was in cabinet. He's a disciplined man. He can spend the whole day just on his chair, following arguments, and then summarizing and making the right decisions about where Zimbabwe is going. Similarly, he chairs the Politburo from 10 to 4 o'clock, or sometimes even into the evening. You know, answering questions, giving everybody room to debate on issues, and then he himself reserving his right to make a final ruling. Regionally, our president is well respected. Every one of the regional leaders, they defer to him, they seek his counsel. Why? Because he's an old horse. He is the repository of the most ardent institutional memory about how the region has traveled since the African nationalism of Southern Africa took a militant stand against colonialism, racism, and apartheid. He's among the early recruits who have survived from that era in the 60s when there was a qualitative jump from the nationalist struggle to the revolutionary struggle. He has been there. He has experienced jail. He has, first he experienced political organization as a young man. He then went into exile. He was among the first people, in fact, he was the first to be trained by the People's Liberation Army of China when our army, when the nascent stages of the crucible of our national liberation movement, the military side. He came back, spent years in jail like fellow nationalists, but his jail was more, he was seen as a terrorist because he had been captured as part of the early infiltration into Zimbabwe. He did his studies. Afterwards, he spent hardly 2 years in Zambia to complete his law degree. And when the war resumed in earnest in Mozambique, he didn't flinch about rejoining the struggle again. You know, sometimes people say once bitten, twice shy. He didn't flinch. He went back to the war, and he became the chief interface of the President Mugabe, of the Politburo, with high command. He would cover from the Zambezi to the Limpopo collecting reports, collating reports about how the war was being executed. Remember, Zanla forces, Zebra forces are the only African liberation movement which has fought a modern war against the British and won. Our Boer and the Boer farmers from South Africa, the Afrikaners, they tried it in the 1900s. They were defeated by the British, the famous Redcoats from Britain. They came and defeated the Afrikaners. Zimbabwe is a different story. Zimbabwe fought and won against the foremost imperial power of the time. But not only did he prosecute the armed struggle in the manner I've just described, giving advice, supplying weapons, engaging in diplomatic work as part of the delegation of the president, as part of the, he was then special advisor to President Mnangagwa.
Okay.
So President Mugabe at that time, sorry, he was then special advisor to President Mugabe at that particular time. So he saw all aspects of that struggle. He came back. He was among the first to land in Harare, to administer the ceasefire which had been agreed in Lancaster House, of which he was also the legal advisor and the tactical advisor and the strategic advisor to the Patriotic Front team in Lancaster House, where the armistice was negotiated. He was active. He came to apply the ceasefire agreement on the ground, and he led the party election win in 1980, the resounding win. And soon after, he assumed the task of integrating the former armies, the three of them, Zanla, Zipla, and the Rhodesian, the remnants of the Rhodesian army. Then he became the Minister of National Security of the First Republic. The security system of Zimbabwe is one of the most respected on the African continent. And the AU makes recourse to the Zimbabwean security system for advice, even when we were setting up the Security Council of the African Union. The first time we had that institution, Zimbabwe was invited to lead Africa in the formation of the Security Council. This is our African peer brothers, sisters, bound to the record of capability which Zimbabwe has shown in this domain. It's not easy to fight a liberation war. It's not easy to consolidate independence. It's not easy to stand foursquare with SWAPO, with ANC, to their respective victories in 1989 for SWAPO. And for your own information, he was the one who was the chief advisor of SWAPO before it went back to Namibia for the transition to independence. I remember I was then a diplomat seconded from New York to Namibia. It's a difficult situation when the South Africans were trying to ditch United Nations resolutions. I was posted in Namibia for that transition period. I was called back by him to come and give briefings to President Sam Nujoma, to ex-President Hage and the whole SWAPO team. We did it at the Holiday Inn, a seminar, before prepping them before they could leave for Windhoek for the first time for the elections. Comrade Mnangagwa was the one who was in charge of that debriefing about SWAPO. He has got bonds with the ANC leadership across the board, because when we became independent, we decided that in one way or the other we will support the ANC in its armed liberation struggle against South Africa. And there were attempts a couple of years ago at an event in Durban when one of the rogue elements from Zanu PF, who is based in South Africa, he wanted to besmirch the role of President Mnangagwa, and none other than President Beki, former President of the Republic of South Africa, went to that meeting to put the record straight that when they were being hosted in Zimbabwe, the point person of President E.G. Mnangagwa to Oliver Tambo, the leader of the ANC in exile, was none other than President E.D. Mnangagwa. And he is the one who was supervising the armed struggle, helping supervise the armed struggle of the ANC. You know, people will also remember that we fought in Mozambique in defense of Frelimo against Renamo, against apartheid South Africa. It was again President Mnangagwa who was tasked with that assignment by the former President of the Republic, Comrade Mugabe. And when peace talks were held, he spent almost 8 to 9 months at Santa Egidio in Rome, brokering peace between Frelimo and Renamo, leading to the laying down of arms by Renamo and its integration into the body politic, body military of Mozambique. Equally, the same President Mnangagwa, who is in charge of Zimbabwe today, was the one in charge of our efforts which restored the integrity, the territorial integrity of the DRC Congo. You know, Rwanda had tried to blindside Southern Africa and establish its own dictatorship in Kinshasa. Congo is an important country. It's the largest of the African countries, one of the largest. Yeah, it is at the heart of Africa. It has got so much capability because when all the other African nations or tribes were being dismembered at the behest of the 1884 Berlin Conference, America stood on the side of Belgian Congo, that cruel ruler, Leopold of Belgium. But it did one thing which was good at that time, which was to have a bigger African country. For the America, they said big is good. That's why Congo, as the Congo Free State, was not dismembered in the way other African countries were cut, masticated into pieces. So this is an important African country, the Congo River, the second largest in the world, but also probably the most powerful all around in terms of capacity to generate electricity. It is a harbinger for the prospect of Africa probably become the headquarters of all the data centers, of most of the data centers in artificial intelligence, because that river is powerful. It receives water from 2 seasons because it crosses the equator, unlike the Amazon. So we were very much aware that you cannot have a puppet regime in Kinshasa, and we intervened. And the man who was the appointment of that intervention by the Zimbabwe Defense Forces, an epic intervention, were only 800 to 900 commanders of Zimbabwe army of the ZNA. They defeated a 10,000 strong army of Rwandans and Uganda. This is the epic achievements of Zimbabwe on the African stage. And at each and every stage, there's one man who is standing out to make sure that these epic victories of Africa can be delivered upon or can be attained. And it's none other than President E.D. Mnangagwa. That's why all his neighbors, they defer to him. I repeat, he has the most institutional memory about this long period which Southern Africa has traversed. And now, of course, we are looking at the economic integration of the region. He has broken into new territory. I mean, it's not easy to have a steel plant in sub-Saharan Africa, a modern steel plant in sub-Saharan, and Zimbabwe is the only one which has got one. The other one is a remnant of the apartheid era in South Africa. It has closed. But Zimbabwe has charted new territory in beneficiation. This was the clamor of the detractors. Hey, we want our minerals beneficiated in Zimbabwe. There it is. Zimbabwe has delivered. President Dydimus Mutasa has delivered. It's also an accolade that he has invited 4 out of probably 6 of the top lithium companies in the world to come to Zimbabwe. Now we have a lithium industry which actually shakes the global market. If Zimbabwe says something about lithium, the global markets respond. We are not pushing out to the sea hard rock lithium. We are processing it here, and now we've even gone further to the lithium sulfate, which is battery-grade lithium. And with the new laws or the new regulations about exports, it will make sure that those companies which have established plants within Zimbabwe are not out-competed by their peers back home in China, who will be getting Zimbabwean rock, processing it into lithium, at the expense of the same Chinese peers who are already resident in the country and they've put their money. So we are doing our best to make sure that they become more profitable by undercutting their competition who have refineries in China instead of refineries in Zimbabwe. This is what we are doing. That's what this law is meant to be, and we believe that we will find a way between Zimbabwe and China of developing a healthy path for the processing of lithium all the way to lithium-ion batteries. These are the batteries which power these phones. Lithium is inside. This is the same battery which is powering electric vehicles in the world. And Zimbabwe is so endowed that 25% of the world hard rock lithium is in Zimbabwe. But President Mnangagwa is not only looking at that, he's looking at the perimeter proximity of all the minerals which are called the transition minerals. That's lithium, cobalt, nickel, manganese, graphite, this I've mentioned. But that group of minerals are now called transition minerals. These are the minerals at the heart of the competition between Europe and China, between America, China, and Europe, these minerals. And he is now engaged in diplomacy with the Americans. Yes. Okay. That's okay. Maybe, Africa will, for the first time, realize value out of its endowment of minerals, because we have become conscious about our role on the global stage, the footprint of Africa in these transition minerals. And President Mnangagwa is actually the leader in terms of the beneficiation of these minerals for the benefit of Africa. I don't want to perhaps waylay you too much. I'm still having a few announcements, but I would also want at this stage, because Comrade Mangwana has got other assignment, I'm told. If you've got any queries which you may wonder on him about the first matter. But remember, I want to emphasize the assignment of the new constitution is being done, spearheaded by Parliament and by the government, the executive wing of government. We as the party, we only offer guidelines. It's not exactly our baby. It is, we chart the policy aspects. Like this is fulfillment of the resolutions about President Mnangagwa being in charge until 2030. That's what the party said. The execution of that aspect does not belong to the party. It belongs to government. It belongs to Parliament. I don't know, maybe you can ask him a few questions on that matter. I've got an important announcement which I'm going to make after he has made his remarks.
Are there any questions regarding his statements on the constitutional amendment? Please feel free to ask so that he may address those questions and be excused. Please state your
come.
name and media house.
Okay, my name is Chawanda. I just want to find out the party can say that enough in terms of sensitizing its membership regarding the amendment.
Take a few questions or do I answer immediately?
Another question, so that we cut on time. Thank Can you comment? Can you come nearer so that we can hear you?
Your time.
That the current president cannot benefit from. Another question? Or we can do with those two for the time. Comrade Mangwana, you can chip in.
Yes, Comrade Chawanda, you asked if we've done enough sensitization of the public. Definitely not yet. There is still a lot of work to be done. It is the responsibility of Parliament to ensure that the public understands the amendments and what's going on, the justification. Currently, there are processes which are ongoing. The party itself is holding meetings. Over the weekend, there are going to be provincial coordinating committees which are being held in all provinces, and members of the party are going to be discussing these amendments. Explanations will be given. Party members who have got questions will be fielding questions and they'll be answered by party members, and also members of Parliament from their provinces will be responding to questions from the public. So there's a lot of sensitization which is going on, and that's the reason why, again, there is need for these 3 months window for debate so that the public understands the nature of the amendments and what's going on. The next question is from your turn. That's correct. Yes, you said the question is whether the incumbent should benefit from the current amendments. Yes, there is that provision. If they are term limit provisions, so the current president is not going to benefit from an extension of term limits. People are failing to understand something in the Constitution. The Constitution provides that any period below 3 years is not considered to be a term. And I think that is a very important piece of the law. So the current amendment is extending by 2 years, which falls short of 3 years. So if there is an extension by 2 years, in terms of the Constitution, it's not a term. So the proposed amendment seeks to extend by 2 years, which falls short of a term. So he is not benefiting from an extension of a term because a term is 3 years. And I think I should clarify that. The proposed amendment seeks to extend by 2 years, which does not make it a term. In the same manner, when the current president came into office, he finished the term of office, the former president Mugabe. That period of 9 months, which he served, is not considered to be a term because it's less than 3 years. In the same manner, an extension by 2 years is also not considered by law to be a term. So, in effect, he is not getting another term. It's not a third term. And it's not an extension which requires an amendment to the law as provided by the same constitution.
Are there any follow-up questions?
Comrade Mushawa, the people, the party, Zanu-PF, made a resolution, I think about 3 or 4 conferences, making the same resolution. The party wants President Mnangagwa to remain in office until 2030. That is the Zanu-PF resolution. Everybody heard that. Then the resolution is then given to the government. This is what the party said you must do, together with all other resolutions on development and many issues. Government has a responsibility of finding a way of implementing those resolutions. And as part of implementing that resolution, government has taken this process now to Parliament. Parliament is making a law for and on behalf of the people. Propositions are being made to amend the Constitution. Parliament must make sure that the public understands the intended amendments. It's not only one, there are numerous of them. So public hearings are then done to ensure that the public understands the nature of the amendments being proposed. But it is the responsibility of Parliament to amend the laws, to amend the Constitution whenever it's deemed necessary. There is a provision that when you are making important amendments, you consult the people, you inform the people. If they've got questions, then they can ask questions and they will be responded to. So public hearings are going to be made. The way we are running our country is that whenever Parliament is making any bills, and I think you've already seen that, whenever they are making any changes, Parliament goes out to make public hearings. More so when you are amending the Constitution, you also need to consult the people and inform them so that if they've got questions, you can answer the questions. So Parliament is doing a public responsibility of ensuring that the citizen understands the changes which are taking place.
If you may also remind you to limit your questions to the historicity of the Constitution so that we stay within that paradigm. Other questions will be answered in due course by the Secretary for Legal Affairs himself. So if we may limit ourselves to historicity.
So my question is, when the constitution is amended, which parliament
It's okay. So you can't decide the agenda of the next parliament which doesn't exist. No, you decide, but the current parliament is a master of its own house. It is not circumscribed except by constitution. And what is being done is not beyond the purview of the current parliament. It's within the ambit of the current parliament. So your question really is neither here or there from that aspect. You cannot take away from parliament the constitutional role which it was entrusted by the electorate through the referenda which approved that constitution. So parliament is acting within the parameters of that constitution. I don't know if
Yeah.
as a legal mind, maybe
when that parliament sits, right now there is a proposed bill, right? Why don't you allow the bill to pass through? Then we'll be able to read it, then we say what does it provide for. But my reading is that the next parliament is the one which you then debate.
Okay. So anyway, I've got some important announcements just as I keep up the economic agenda of the president. We are into an exciting period where South Africa and Zimbabwe are becoming Siamese twins joined on the economic hip. The minerals I referred to, they're in DRC, they're in Zambia, they're in South Africa, they're in Zimbabwe, they're in Mozambique. So the quest for those minerals by the major industrial centers is the one which is giving Southern Africa that throw weight in terms of the transition minerals. We are going to bargain hard to make sure that we all benefit from our minerals. But most important, we are going to offer incentives which will entice the new energy electric industry or mobility, the new energy electric mobility industry to come to Southern Africa. Maybe you are watching what's happening in South Africa now. The whole car industry is becoming Chinese in South Africa because of the migration from fossil fuel to new energy electric batteries. And China has become the leader with most of the intellectual patents of that industry. And South Africa has got one of the largest automobile sectors on the African continent. It is determined to retain its lead, which, of course, other countries like Egypt and Morocco are beginning to surpass. We are going to defend our turf for the new energy electric vehicle sector in Southern Africa. Because all the minerals, these transition minerals, are within our region of the countries which I just mentioned. Congo, cobalt and copper, Zambia, copper, Tanzania, nickel, Madagascar, nickel, Zimbabwe, chrome, lithium, South Africa, manganese, vanadium, chrome. All these minerals are within perimeter of Southern Africa. The countries which is competing against us most is China. They have to ship these minerals from different regions in the world, thousands of kilometers. The technology is there, it has no geography. We want to offer incentives to bring this industry to Southern Africa. And President Mnangagwa is leading that charge. And it is from that charge that prosperity will be delivered. It will be from that charge that young people will have 7 to 5 jobs and then relax at the weekend and go to nightclubs knowing that they've got a busy schedule next week on Monday. This is where Southern Africa is going. And it's so important that at this juncture, we have the continuity of leadership. And that's what was live to the electorate of Zanu-PF when it was passing those resolutions. In auto racing, they say you overtake at the bend. The bend is the movement, the transition, the paradigm shift from fossil fuels to new energy electric vehicles. This is an opportunity for Southern Africa, indeed for Africa, to catch up from being a technological laggard to be vaulted to the forefront of technological competence. The Southeast Asian countries did that. China has done it. Many other countries. Why not Africa? And if it is Africa, the region which is most poised to succeed is Southern Africa. And in Southern Africa, the countries which stand poised to lead that new energy electric mobility are Zimbabwe and South Africa. And President Mnangagwa is very much alive to that. So Zanu PF is saying, this is the bend in an electric, in a car race. This is where we must overtake. So we will not let that chance be lost by not having continuity in a leader who has shown a remarkable capacity. We have shown a remarkable capacity in changing and turning around the fortunes of Zimbabwe in a short period of 6 years. I want to make an announcement. One of the stalwarts of the Zimbabwe revolution, who has been on the margins for some time, has been brought back to the party to become a member of the Zanu PF elders. Again, this is President Mnangagwa stretching out the hand of accommodation to all those who have been associated with the national liberation struggle of Zimbabwe. It was not an easy walk to freedom. There was no manuals written as Zanu and Zapu, as Zipra and Zanla fought the National Liberation War. We were groping for the way as we fought, if I can put it. So along the way, there are misunderstandings. There's also the question that we were young people when the struggle was being prosecuted. We were a generation of between 13 and 2 from fossil fuel to electric energy batteries. Is now irreversible. It's now the trend, with China being the leader. More than half, if not 6%, of the vehicles which are on the road in China now are all electric. And the uptake of electric vehicles on the globe in other economies is ticking positively towards increasing numbers. And we see it includes what they call PHEV, plug-in hybrid vehicles, where you use both the engines and the motor, electric motor, as drivers, but they're also pure electric vehicles. This industry is taking the world by storm. But even at other levels of mobility, the mopeds, the motorbikes, the tricycles, they are all going towards mobility of electricity and batteries. So Zimbabwe is well positioned to take advantage of this lithium sector, to vault itself to prosperity by making sure that batteries are manufactured within Zimbabwe. So packages need to be offered to those leaders in China to come and invest in Zimbabwe, because they are the ones with the technological know-how. But for our people here, local people, we need also to encourage them to send their own lithium to the newly established processing centers. It's a capital-heavy industry. Not every Dick, Tom, and Harry can have a refinery in the backyard. It's not possible. You know, you need industrial, you need scale. Remember, you are manufacturing to global standards. You are not manufacturing so as we go to appropriate to Zimbabwe. No, nothing like that. So the best way to address your question is for Zanu PF to prod government to entice the big investors so that our lithium industry can become bigger than what it is right now. And in the process, we don't need to export lithium. These young SMEs, they will be supplying plants at Arcadia, plants at Bikita, and very soon plants at Zulu Mine in Sandawana, in Gwanda. There's also, of course, Sandawana itself. I think another plant is coming up. I read the other day that our Munumutapa fund is going to be busy building a lithium sulfate plant. But there's also the tailings from from Kamativ. There is also need for a big lithium processing plant there. So this is an industry which has grown in a very short period of time, but its trend is unmistakable because Europe and America are now playing catch up, and these are the huge markets for mobility, and we expect to be delivering batteries, or not only batteries, but electric vehicles made in the region. After all, we have this steel now, and our South African friends, they are watching what's happening in Zimbabwe. They are opening up their eyes to the possibilities. That's why I'm saying the president is very much following these trends. He's a wide reader and a man with a versatile mind. And something good is going to come out of this for the people of Zimbabwe. The lithium industry will vault Zimbabwe to another level, if I can put it. Another question? I think we are done. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for coming.
Yeah.